Welcome back to Tell Vanessa. I'm your host, Vanessa Cruickshank. So what have we got in store for you? Well, we have some interesting topics and debates. We highlight community issues of businesses. You tell me your dilemmas, and then we finish with some good music. So for the next 30 minutes, sit back, relax, and enjoy. Tell Vanessa. Today we discuss one of the oldest professions in the world. Can you guess what it is? Well, it's prostitution. But when you think of prostitution, what comes to mind? For me, it's women on the street corners or in brothels. But this is an outdated view because the face of prostitution is changing today. We have many women opting for this profession as a lifestyle choice, as a career. A recent study found that 1 in 20 students had recently worked in the sex industry while studying for a degree. And in addition, many young people are offering their time and their bodies to fund their celebrity lifestyles. So on tonight's show, we discuss the changing face of prostitution. Is it just evolution, something that happens naturally over time? Or is it something that we need to worry about? To discuss, I have two very interesting guests with me. Good evening.
Good evening.
So Kate, you've written about the history of sex work.
Yes.
And have you both heard about the Sugar Daddies website?
Yes.
So this is where a lot of young people in particular are choosing to be sugar babies, where they're getting very rich men to support their lifestyles, but they don't believe that they're prostitutes. What do you think of that?
I think a lot about that. My first thoughts is a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. But the sugar baby phenomena is it's a particularly interesting one when we're looking at sex work, because like you say, the people involved in it don't like to identify a lot with the word prostitute or sex worker. They prefer to think of themselves as just dating rich men. And for me, I have an issue with the sugar baby culture because it's quite ill-defined and it's quite nebulous, and people go into it not fully understanding what's involved, because the myth of it is like you said, is that you'll date a very rich man, you can have a celebrity lifestyle, he'll buy you a horse or whatever it is.
It's the acceptable face of prostitution.
It is, but it's also not like that.
Go on.
It's also, the majority of men on there are married. There's no guarantee that the person that you're talking to is who they say they are, for example. From what I know of it, and this is sort of anecdotal people that I've spoken to, most of the men expect sex from it. Most of the sugar daddies, that's what they expect. The myth of the billionaire who just wants to take you for dinner and buy you a house.
But I think that actually a lot of young people who are opting for this lifestyle, they know that it's not just companionship. They know that they also have to offer that as well.
They do.
Yeah. And they're willing to do that.
Yeah.
Alex, you work with sex workers.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about what the industry is like now, how it's changing.
I think the biggest thing that's changed the industry in recent years is the growth of the internet. Now, the vast majority of clients and sex workers, how they first meet is on the internet, on kind of escort sites, things
apps.
like that. Apps, yeah.
But when many people think of prostitution, they do still think of the brothels, people walking on the street, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think the numbers of people working in brothels probably hasn't changed that much, but it's shrunk as a proportion of the sex industry because there's so many more people who can work online. And the advantage of working online is it gives you more independence. So sex workers don't need to rent a premises. And obviously it's illegal. A brothel is defined as when more than one person works in a particular place. So sex workers can be prosecuted for working in a brothel. And obviously working away from the streets is preferable. And I think the street sex work population is at less than 10% of the overall numbers of sex work. So
percentage of
do you see, though, a change in terms of the numbers of people actually becoming sex workers? Because it's been increasing year on year, but in terms of the age group, what does that look like?
I think it's a very broad age group. We did some research. We surveyed a lot of sex workers with Leeds University, and our age range, I think, was 18 to about 67.
67?
Yeah, so there's a market for anything in sex work.
Okay, how do you think that it's portrayed in the media? Because at the moment, people see this as almost especially the new age of sex workers, that it's almost like equality, feminism at its best?
I think that the media is... There are parts of it that are slowly beginning to show a more accurate portrayal of sex work, but the media has historically gone for a binary. It's gone for either the most vulnerable people, who are usually street sex workers. Research has shown that I think it's only between 10 and 20% of all sex workers work on the street. The rest is indoor or parlours or brothels or those kind of things. So they'll focus on those very, very vulnerable people, or they will focus on your £1,000 a night courtesan, and who really do live the life of luxury. But in between those two huge extremes, and I think it was the Select Office Home Committee who said that, who judged there's about 73,000 sex workers in the UK at the moment. Most of that is in the middle of those two enormous extremes. Well, I think that feminism, especially radical feminists, and sex work certainly have butted heads a number of times. And I understand the argument that women are for sale and that this is an extension of patriarchy and it's terrible. But what I see more and more, and from experiences with my blog and my internet, I speak to sex workers all the time, is that I don't see it as exploitative. They don't see it as exploitative. In fact, they see it as empowering. And as a central tenet of feminism is the issue of consent and sovereignty over your own body. I think that we have to be able to respect people enough to say, maybe I wouldn't make that choice, but you are free to make that choice, and I will support your choice.
So do you see it as a profession?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that it can be. I think that a lot of people use sex work for, to use a 19th century word, dolly mopping, which means to subsidise your income through sex work. A lot of people do that. Sites like Sugar Babies, apps like Adult Work, they make it easier for people to get into sex work because now the anonymity is preserved a lot more. You know, you don't have to join an agency. You don't have to go and stand on a street. You can just download an app, which in one way that it makes it easier, but it also makes it more dangerous.
It seems a little bit seedy when you can just do it like that.
You can just do it like that with Tinder, though, can't you?
But Tinder is not actually necessarily a site for sex.
No. And Sugar Babies isn't necessarily a site for sex either,
But to me, the connotations around the Sugar Baby and what you're actually signing up for the site for, you're signing up for a man to pay for your lifestyle, and in return, you're giving him companionship and intimacy.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's not how it advertises itself. Obviously, it advertises itself as just a dating site to meet rich people. But it's certainly... Yeah, I don't see a lot of difference between that and Tinder, to be completely honest.
What would you say to people that actually wanted to join this industry now?
I think, I mean, be aware of what's really involved, and that's not saying that, you know, it's horrible, or most sex workers have a similar kind of view of their work as most people. So there's elements of their work they like, there's elements they don't like. When we surveyed sex workers and we asked them, what do you like and dislike about your work? Only a very small number said they felt it was dehumanising. More people found it empowering than dehumanising, for example.
But if somebody, sorry to interrupt, if somebody came up to you and said that they wanted to get into the profession of sex work, would you not discourage them?
I wouldn't discourage them, no. I think I mean, I wouldn't encourage them either. I'd try and provide them with information about, you know, what's involved. And I mean, I'd say sign up.
Would you talk about the risks?
Yeah, yeah, I would. But I wouldn't say that sex work is inherently violent, because I don't think that's the case. I think, you know, there's...
But what about morally?
Morally, I think, you know, I don't think consensual sex between adults is immoral.
But when money's involved?
Yeah, I don't think that makes a difference. I think if a person is happy, you know, and it's their way of making income, then I wouldn't want to judge them. I think when we bring morality into this debate, it sort of disempowers sex workers.
Because I hear what you're saying, and I appreciate that, but everybody makes a moral judgment. Every day that something happens in the media, people morally judge. So it's happening all the time.
They're morally judging a phantom of the media. They're not morally judging real people and real lives, because sex workers are shrouded in mystery, and people don't, or they feel that they can't speak up and say, I am a sex worker. That what we're dealing with is when people judge it, is they don't know the reality of it. They've gone to the street sex worker or the £1 million night courtesan, And the reality of it is very, very different. So when people are judging it, they're judging it with misguided information. And the only way that we're going to challenge that is to try and break through that stigma and present a more realistic portrayal. But we can't do that until we stop it being a criminalised activity and we stop judging people involved in it. Because ultimately, you know, I've heard so many girls say that they want to land a rich husband. And what's the difference? I mean, you know,
Okay, you write about the history of sex work. Yes. What would your advice be to somebody that wants to join this industry?
I would say speak to ugly mugs. Speak to people like Alex who can give you good advice. I would never tell somebody that I think that they morally shouldn't do it, because I respect someone to be able to consent and make those choices as long as they're informed choices. And that's where I think the danger lies, is when people don't fully understand what their business entails.
Thank you both for coming in this evening.
Thank you.
Tell Vanessa, just tell Vanessa now.
In my opening statement, I spoke about the changing face of prostitution. Is it just evolution or something we need to worry about? My opinion is yes to both. Things are evolving, and we do need to worry about what it's changing into. For me, prostitution is becoming too much of a lifestyle choice. It's displaying materialism at its worst. People so desperate for things that they sell the one thing that is sacred, their bodies. Sites like sugar daddies are the acceptable face of prostitution, showing the world that I am in control, girl power, a twisted type of feminism. All I can say is that all that glitters isn't always gold, and you need to think carefully about the choices you're making, because sometimes the past has a nasty way of coming back to bite you in the future.
Tell Vanessa, just tell Vanessa now.
It's Deliberate sponsors Tell Vanessa. It's Deliberate sponsors Tell Vanessa.
Tell Vanessa, just tell Vanessa now.
Who wouldn't want to have their very own tailor, to have bespoke men-designed clothes in Savile by the best in the business? Well, this evening we have the best in the business here with us in the studio. Cabral Mercer, the brand consultant, the personal image designer, and the Savile tailor. Good evening, Cabral.
Good evening, Vanessa.
Tell me a little bit about what started off your passion for design.
Well, basically, it was an ex-girlfriend of mine. She used to design clothes, get clothes from the shop, cut around it, and make her own version. And I thought, that's interesting, and kind of excited me. And I thought to myself, you know, when you're in a relationship and stuff, that little competition, I thought, if she can do it, I can do it. And then I started, and I realised that I was pretty good.
But how did you start working for Savile?
Basically, it was, I used to be a bespoke jeans maker, and I had a website, and it had like a little bespoke section on there. And there was these group of guys that created my website. They made my website as an end-of-year project at university. But I didn't realise that they ranked the bespoke section was ranked like number 4 on the Google page for bespoke jeans.
That's good.
So when I got the call, I thought to myself, they said they was from Savile, and I was thinking, yeah, whatever, like, where'd you get my number? And they said, yeah, we Googled your brand and bespoke jeans, and you came up. And while I was on the phone, I actually done it myself, and I was like, wow. So they said that they had some work for me, and I went and met up with the guy. At this time, I didn't even think it was real. I was still thinking, yeah, whatever, this is a joke. So when I actually went down there, I was like, wow. And at the time, I always wanted to say like the price 500. So when they asked me how much it was, I said £500. And he was calm about it, and I thought, wow. So Yeah, that's how I initially got in there. They basically found me.
But you've now made this your business, and this is what you do. So you're a brand consultant as well.
Yeah, yeah.
What's that about?
Basically, I help other people set up their brands. So I consult. A lot of people come to me. They may not necessarily, and mainly guys, because there's this kind of stigma surrounded around the whole fashion business. But because I look like and I can relate, they find it comfortable to speak to me about, and they take my advice seriously, which is cool.
So what next for your brand?
Basically, I'm working on a collection at the moment. Kind of like, it's kind of my story, because initially when I first started designing, I always thought I needed to be a certain way and I had to look a certain way, but I realized that you just have to be yourself.
Yeah, you do.
And people like you for being you. So this piece that I'm working on at the moment, it's called the Freedom Fighter Collection.
Okay.
But basically it's like my story, as in being a leader, yeah? Breaking your chains, as in like you may be breaking the chains of society. Like in society, they say you just have to go out and get a job and do what they say. But you can unlock your own genius, be a non-conformist.
So I got the keys?
I got the keys to unlock my own genius.
Okay.
Like slavery is dead in the sense of that releasing the mental shackles and not being a sheep.
I love it. It's
just
really
being
good.
proud of your genius, because a lot of the time I thought to myself, it's about telling my story now, the real story, and not what they expect you to hear. Just be yourself.
So for 2017, what are you planning? What are you planning to do?
2017, I've actually got a project with Universal. I've got plans to go to Dubai with the tailoring concierge service, LA, and Miami. Time to take it on the road. So it's going to be like a pop-up shop tour.
So it sounds really good.
Yeah.
So if there are some young men out there watching the show who want to get into design and fashion, what would you say to them?
What I would say is speak to people that have the experience, for one, and secondly, just believe in yourself. Believe in that fire in your chest, that gut. Because everyone has a vision, and that vision is yours. Yeah. So sometimes when you express it to someone else, they're not going to see it because it's not theirs. So you got to believe in your vision and follow that vision.
Thank you so much, Cabral.
Thank you.
Tell Vanessa, just tell Vanessa now.
This is the part of the show where you tell me your dilemmas, I tell you what I think, and then we take it to the streets. Now we have a dilemma from a man named Derek. Derek is not his real name, and when you hear the story, you know why he's changed his name. I've been sleeping with my brother's girlfriend now for 5 years, and I don't feel guilty. As I met her first, it's just that my brother approached her. For the first 5 years, she was always declining my advances. At one stage, I actually thought she was going to tell my brother. Then bingo, they had a huge argument and split up. I was there night after night as a shoulder to cry on. Then one thing led to another. The next week, they got back together. She said she didn't want to have anything to do with me and wanted to forget what happened. I wasn't having any of it. I told her if she didn't continue, I would tell my brother and the whole family, and they would absolutely hate her. I was hoping that after she spent some time with me, she'd get used to the situation, and I was right. The reason for me contacting you today is my brother has 2 children with her, but I'm convinced the youngest one is mine, as he looks like me. I've just split up with my girlfriend, I have no kids, so want to find out if this child is mine. What do you think?
Tell Vanessa, just tell Vanessa now.
What do I think? What do I think? That you're selfish, selfish, selfish. Come on, this is real life, not a soap opera. So where do I start? You blackmailed that girl into being with you. She should have told your brother about you right from the start. So what now? Just because you don't have a girlfriend, you want to ruin your brother's life? I think you have some serious sibling rivalry or jealousy issues going on because you don't like your brother. Really, you can't like your brother. Anyway, there's a saying that what is hidden in the dark eventually gets revealed in the light. So yes, this needs to come out in the open. I just worry about how you're going to spin this. All I can say is that your actions will leave a heap of destruction and a rift in your family. So I hope it was all worth it. But I really do hope that this child isn't yours because you're too selfish. But like I say every week, this is just my advice. Let's hear what they say on the streets.
I think it's a little bit deep that you've been with your brother's girlfriend for 5 years.
Whether you're the dad or the uncle to the child, you're related to them whatever, so...
And I think it's even worse that you're threatening the fact that if she doesn't come with you, then you're going to tell him and you could break up something that's potentially amazing.
I have no idea.
I think every child deserves to know who his real dad is.
You don't really need to know.
Well, Derek, I hope you take our advice, because as they say, a problem shared is a problem halved. So if you've got a dilemma, email us here at dilemma@tellvanessa.com. So we've come to the end of another great show. I hope you've enjoyed the show as much as we have. I'd like to thank all our guests and thank you for sending in your dilemmas. So now we're going to leave you with a little something to get you dancing from Marcus George.
It's Marcus Samuel. Big up Vanessa for letting me on the show. My new single, Loud, featuring Mercer, out now. Graham Daily, listen.
Don't you bring me down. I'm up on this high, don't wanna come round. Feeling like I wanna be, but I know I can't see this ever happening here in this. Don't you bring me down. I'm up on this high, don't wanna come round. Feeling like I wanna be, but I know I can't see this ever happening here in this town.
Cause no, I can't quit till it's over. I swear I keep pushing till that dream gets closer. More time, I'll be on the source, no saucer. Same routine, same roll. No, I ain't sober, my mood swings are vulgar. I'm trying to get dough and make it stretch like yoga. I was deep sleeping, something like a coma, but now it's my time. I can't be resigned to the sofa. But my parents keep snapping. Mum's like, son, is it ever gonna happen? Dad's like, look, there's no money in rapping. Do a 9 to 5, stop slacking. I can hear my demons are screaming. Late of an evening, they're creeping. I'm sitting on my own, just staring at the ceiling. I'm thinking to myself, what's the reason, the meaning? I swear down.
Don't you bring me down. I'm up on this high, don't wanna come round. Feeling like I wanna be, but I know I can't see this ever happening here in this. Don't you bring me down. I'm up on this high, don't wanna come round. Feeling like I wanna be, but I know I can't see this ever happening here in this town.
What you know about grafting and hustling? What you know about 2-job juggling? What you know about putting on a brave face, even on a great day, smiling and bubbling? Me, I put my heart in this graph and I've mastered my craft from the start. Masking that pain with a laugh through that path in the dark. There was no blue skies, just clouds overcast. But I benched that weight off my chest top. I was sitting there thinking about my next stop. I can't quit cause I'm married to it, wedlock. Plus I got the game in a headlock. But I need money so I'm thinking about Z shots. But I don't wanna end up in a slammer or a sweatbox. So I stick to bangers in my desktop. Cause I know I spit fire and it's satin like red hot.
Don't you bring me down. I'm up on this high, don't wanna come round. Feeling like I wanna be, but I know I can't see this ever happening here in this. Don't you bring me down. I'm up on this high, don't wanna come round. Feeling like I wanna be, but I know I can't see this ever happening here. Tell Vanessa, tell Vanessa. Tell Vanessa, just tell Vanessa now. Tell Vanessa, tell Vanessa. Tell Vanessa, just